Welcome to BFCN Shorts, a short-form interview series where we talk to coaches who've worked around the world in wonderful locations. Today's guest is Cameron Herbert, who has been in Malawi. Enjoy. Cameron, thanks for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, William. Thank you for having me on.
So where have you come to talk to us about?
I'm currently located in Lilongwe, Malawi. It's the capital city in Malawi. More specifically, it's the central region. It's one of the busiest regions and probably the most popular regions with the most things to do, and most of the expats reside in Lilongwe.
So I'm sure you've had this a lot. A lot of people might never have heard of Malawi before. Can you tell us where it is?
Sure. So Malawi is a very small landlocked country in East Africa, Southern East Africa, depending on who you ask. Most known for Lake Malawi, which is a growing tourist destination. But Malawi is slowly becoming known for excellent footballers, courtesy of yours truly.
Well done. How long have you been there for?
I've been here since March 2022, so just about 8 months now. And I'll be going back home in December the same year. And hopefully I'm coming back next year. We're ironing that out now as we speak.
Well, if you're hoping to go back, clearly you've been enjoying it. So let's talk about what's so good about Malawi, and hopefully we can peel back the curtain so others will be open to the idea of going there should the opportunity arise.
Sure.
Who have you been coaching for there?
I've been working with Ascend Soccer. They've got 2 campuses, one in Lilongwe, Malawi, and then one in Uganda. But I've been strictly at the Malawi location.
I'm sure a lot of people on Twitter and LinkedIn will have heard of Ascend. A lot of good stuff going on there. What is it that appealed to you initially about the role and about Malawi itself?
So Malawi, not known for its football ability, or being able to produce football players. It's a very ambitious project here at Ascent. So we want to be, the right to dream for this part of the continent. We want to be able to identify talent, produce the talent, nurture the talent, and then put them on the platform they deserve to be on. And that was really what spoke to me. In Canada, I was working with players who come from good backgrounds, financially wise, at least. Like, they were never going to struggle. University was always going to be an option for them. They were never going to have to worry about a job, and so on and so forth. So in that regard, coaching wasn't that rewarding. Getting a player on a scholarship is really, it feels good, but taking a player who's got raw football potential and then giving them the education, the nutrition, the football training to help them reach that potential, it's a much more fulfilling prospect. And that's what really sold me on the idea. Because you are working with the best players in the country for each age group. We have the best U12s in the country, the best U15s in the country, the best U18s in the country on the girls' side as well. A number of our players play for the youth national teams, if not all of them at some point will play for the youth national teams or the senior national team. So there's a lot of really good players to work with, especially from a technical perspective. I think as coaches, we always want people to do everything we want them to do perfectly. And we're very frustrated because sometimes the players we have are not good enough. Here, I would say the big limitation is their tactical understanding of the game. And that's mainly due to the education system in Malawi. So in short, the technical level of the players is extremely exciting. And then the prospect of helping put these players, on the world stage is what drew me in.
Oh, that leads in nicely to the next question. So you're talking about the education and that they might be a little bit behind tactically. So let's talk about the football infrastructure. What's it like there? Are there a lot of clubs? Is there much involvement from the federation?
The FA, I would say, is behind. Ambition-wise, they have a lot of ideas that I don't personally agree with, or sometimes they do things really well, like the amount of youth tournaments that are in Blantyre, which is the southern city in Malawi. But that city is much more built up than Lilongwe, despite Lilongwe being the capital. The FA resides in Blantyre, so there's a bit of bias towards Blantyre. So I think they're trying to build out that part of the country first before expanding upwards. The FA I would say, aren't too involved with youth football. I think we just recently got a U17 girls national team. And then below that, there are no national teams. Scouting is still, I guess, done word of mouth. You have to do quite a lot of traveling. There's no video and I guess statistics being taken outside of the T&M Super League, which is the top flight here. So it's very difficult, I would say, for clubs outside of Ascent to identify a talent. They just don't have the time, resources, or energy or manpower to do so. So
go ahead.
Yeah. It's still very much in the works. The country is still very far behind, say like in England or Canada, where the infrastructure is there from U6 all the way to the U23s and senior team, right? It exists. Here it doesn't, not yet at least.
So let me ask a couple ignorant questions, because a lot of this is to try and educate coaches. Do you play on dirt, and do you use bamboo for goalposts?
When we go scouting in Mzuzu and Blantyre, yes, we play on dirt pitches because there just isn't a lot of grass. It only rains 4 months a year, 4 to 6 months a year if you're really lucky. So the local pitches are dirt mostly. The teams that play in the Super League, they have grass pitches, but water is very expensive and gardeners are very expensive. So the pitches eventually just turn into like a mix of dirt and dust in the Super League. And then that also trickles down into the local pitches that we scout from. But when you come to our campus, pitches are green. They get watered every day. It looks exactly like an academy would in Canada, America, Europe. You've got your metal goalposts with your, with your not cloth, but your string netting, your mesh. None of the bamboo. But when you go scouting in some village that's you're never gonna find on Google Maps for for talent, you will find dirt pitches, but most teams don't train on them now.
So off the back of that, let me ask you, what were some misconceptions before going, or what are typical misconceptions that you often hear about Malawi?
I was scared I was going to be robbed. I was scared that I would get sick from who knows what number of viruses and such that people talk about. I was scared that locals wouldn't like me because I'm white. And I'm coming here kind of telling them how to play football and all that. None of those were true. I got malaria once, but I think that's more of a case of being unlucky than malaria just being an issue. And malaria wasn't even that bad, in fairness. I think it's a rite of passage, maybe. But also, I get treated with a lot of respect, right? When you tell people you're here for football and you're coaching youth football, people don't really give you a hard time. They're quite thankful. You will pay maybe more money to do basic things like paying for a cab. You might pay like 20 pence more, 50p more, but that's about it, really. That's probably that's the worst of it.
Yeah, a few places do have the foreigner tax when it comes to taxi prices.
Yeah.
What has taken some adjusting to since being in Malawi?
The level of education, for sure. Before coming, I thought the biggest issue for countries like Malawi was there was no money, and then these countries didn't have their issues exposed to the world, which I've now kind of switched on that. It's definitely a case of education. People here don't finish secondary school. They very, very rarely finish primary school. So the local language here is Chichewa. So some kids will only just speak Chichewa their entire lives, despite English being taught in schools from the age of 13 up. So, which is also too late to start, in my opinion. But there's just a lot of things that Malawi doesn't have that other, I guess, developed countries would have. For example, if you're going to be in a bilingual country, you wouldn't make primary school the native tongue and then secondary school exclusively the bilingual language. Right? You would kind of have to mix it at some point. You have to bridge that gap so there isn't any issues. Whereas here, primary school is a local language, and then it's cold turkey secondary school English, which is why a lot of kids fail secondary school. So the education system needs to improve, which since I've been here, it looks like it's improving, or at least they're in the direction of trying to improve, which is good, I guess. But that's the biggest obstacle, is the education. Kids don't understand anything. You know, I think I show up to the training pitch with, you know, pen and paper to draw it out for them. I have a laptop or my phone to show videos of what I'm trying to get them to do, tactically at least. I have to demonstrate with myself what I want done. So you really do need to get creative with how you want to explain to people who, one, don't speak the same language as you, and two, just have a very poor level of education.
Aside from malaria, what are some of the challenges that you faced?
Just that really. I mean, I would say food is it's a bit of a stretch to say food's a challenge, but I'm paying way too much money for cheese, is I guess the biggest complaint I have, because it's a landlocked country. Malawi is not known for its dairy production. So any dairy product is imported from South Africa. So those are maybe, like, you're looking at, for a 500-gram thing of butter, you're not paying maybe £12, £15 for it. It's just absurd. But if that's my biggest complaint about Malawi, they should tell you things are pretty okay, pretty decent.
That's not bad, is it? Lack of cheese that I could do is eating less cheese. So.
You say that now until you stop having cheese for a couple months, and then you get a little desperate.
Yeah, I won't take it for granted. I know that. For a while, I took real bacon for granted.
Wow.
Yeah. What kind of things do you do for fun over there?
Well, there is lots to do. I think I read a lot. I read much more now than I did in Canada. There's football to play, there's frisbee to play, there's a bunch of, like, recreational sports you can go play for adults of all skill levels. I like to go to the gym a lot. And then there's no cinema, unfortunately, at least not yet. Which I think that I miss the cinema a lot. But reading, gym, recreational sports, all within maybe a 15-minute drive. If you really, I don't think it goes much farther than that. So it's been good. You can keep yourself entertained, I think, if you like being active.
Have you found it hard to integrate into society or make a social life?
I don't think so. One of the first things I was told when I got here was how quickly I was able to adapt, and that might be because of my personality and whatnot. But I think that Ascent is very welcoming as an organization, as a start. But then the country is welcoming as well. Like, there's no Malawians that I butt heads with. Everyone's quite welcoming, and there's a number of social activities you can go to. There's clubs you can go to. There's, you know, karaoke nights, dance clubs. There's plenty of options for you to explore. You won't really, I think, be out of ideas for things to do.
How has going there benefited you as a coach?
Well, I get to work with more UEFA licensed coaches, which I can't say I was able to do in Canada. They were very hard to come by. My previous club had an Argentinian pro licensed coach, but before that club, I had never worked with a pro licensed coach before, or an A licensed coach before. The highest licensed coach I've ever worked with was a B. Now I'm working with two B licensed coaches, a C licensed coach. I'm a C licensed coach as well. So moving here means I get to work with better coaches. And when you work with better coaches as you're trying to develop yourself as a coach, it's massively important. Like, I would say, the best thing about me being here is the coaches I work with. They've helped me a lot. They've helped me understand how players learn. They've helped me understand how to improve players who don't speak English, don't know how to learn themselves, how to create an environment that fosters learning, because none of these issues really existed in Canada. You know, you can kind of figure out how kids learn when you spend enough time with them. Here, they just don't know how to learn because they never taught how to learn. The education system just abandoned that idea. So you really have to think on your feet. You have to be creative, and coaches here helped me figure that out.
Away from coaching, how has working and living in Malawi benefited you as a person?
I'm absolutely more humble now. Things I complain about in Canada, I certainly don't complain about now. Like I said, I read a lot more, and that's not down to just there's lots of bookstores in Malawi. This year has been especially bad for Malawi, just rolling power outages because a dam that gives the whole country electricity broke. So it's kind of being repaired. So there's load shedding. So some days you have power, some days you don't. So the days that I don't have power, I do lots of reading. Back home, if the power went out, even for a couple hours, it ruined my whole day. I was very sour about it, and I was just pretty much just threw my toys away. Now the power's out. There's other things to do. There's journaling, there's reading, there's going to the gym. You learn to make do, right? Sometimes when the power goes out, you don't get to cook the dinner you were planning to cook. So you have to wait a little longer. You have to make something else. Whereas back home, these small inconveniences would have just really put me off. Like, oh, I don't get to make my lasagna tonight. This is the worst day ever. Or stupid stuff like that, immature stuff. Now, much more humble. Things don't really get under my skin as much.
Final question. What advice would you give to someone considering working in Malawi?
Come with an open mind, and try to be as adaptable as possible. Nothing here runs on time. So if someone says they're going to be here at 9 a.m., expect them to be here at 11 or 12. There's very few things we can control, but the things that we can control are done really well. But being adaptable lets you manage the things you can't control and manage how you feel about that. Because if you let everything that you can't control get under your skin anywhere in the world, not just Malawi, you'll be worse for it.
Cameron, thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed that and found that useful. Thank you to Cameron for coming on. We're always looking for coaches who want to help other coaches expand their knowledge about different countries and different cities around the world. So if you'd like to spare 15 to minutes to try and help us out, just get in contact. See you next time.